it's Tpok, and I am back in Symphonic Rain. So we just finished our practice session with Fall last time. And yeah, so glancing out the window, I noticed the rain was pretty calm. Are you going home now, Fall?
ごめんなさい。一緒に帰りたいんだけど、今日はちょっと無理かな。
I see. What a pity. Actually, we weren't close enough for me to feel that way. In fact, her saying that she would like to walk home with me seemed dubious in itself. I'm going home now.
あ、でもその前に一つ聞きたいんだけど。
What is it?
今日はどうだった？
Thoughts?
私の歌とかそういうの。
Well, I think I told you before, but I thought it was great.
そう？ありがとう。クリスさんのフォルテールもやっぱり良かった。
I see. Thanks. Before I knew it, my initial discomfort at the thought of performing with a stranger had all but dissipated. It was no doubt all thanks to her constantly putting me at ease. Although we'd only spent a short while together, I doubted there were many people who wouldn't come to admire a girl so diligent about everything she did. Being no exception to that, I naturally returned her smile and asked her about what to do next. So what shall we do from now on?
パートナーに決めるにはまだまだ時間が欲しいよね。
Yeah.
それならさ、火曜日と木曜日は私いつもここにいるから時間があったらまた練習しない？
I can't guarantee anything though.
もちろんそれでいいよ。
Okay, so should I meet you at the same time as today for our next meeting?
ええ、場所もここにしておくから、もし先に誰かがこの部屋を使ってたら一個ずつずれていくようにするから小窓から覗いてみて。
I'll do that. I thought I'd take some time to decide what to do from now on. Taking the time to expand my alternatives was important right now. What will you do now?
私は第一校舎に用事があるけど。
Then I'll see you off at the front door. As she stood in front of the building, Flo glanced upward at the sky.
今日は傘持ってきてないけど。
The rain's gotten pretty light, so we should be fine.
そう。それじゃあまたね。
Yeah, see ya. After spending a minute staring at Falt's retreating figure, she rhythmically walked into the distance. I set out for the City of Rain. Like I mentioned to Fall, the rain was weak. My uniform, which would normally get drenched and coil around my skin, didn't even feel all that unpleasant right now. Perhaps because of that, I didn't feel inclined to increase my pace, and leisurely walked home amidst the rain. So now it's Friday. Okay. Okay. So I just basically keep going to the cafeteria for torta. Oh. Okay. Oh man, this is a bad joke, right? Tell me it is. I'd get pissed, obviously. Thank God. Torta produced another set of score sheets from her bag, then left it on a chair after giving a quick once over. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Tell me you are. I suppose I have, but... No, it's not. Ugh,
絶対にダメなの?
Torta looked at me with puppy dog eyes. It was just how Arietta used to look at me back then. Well, perhaps not absolutely.
ならいい?
Well,
じゃあダメなの?
like I said, it's not like you absolutely can't. Fine, fine, I get it. Stop looking at me like that.
はいはい、その代わりいいんだよね。
What's with your sudden change in attitude?
クリスがいいって言ったんだからね。
Well, sure I did, but...
ほんと男の子ってこういうのに弱いんだね。春にこんな顔されるといつも仕方なさそうにうなずいてたもんね。
Don't tell me Ari had the same thoughts as you.
そういうこともあるかもね。
No, I believe in her.
信じすぎて後で傷つかないようにね。
Let's begin.
はいはい。
I ran my fingers along the keyboard of my Fortelle, trying my best not to mind the presence behind me. Now that we'd performed together so often, Torta should have gotten the timing down as well. I started playing my Fortelle, as I was the lead. Do I actually play? No. Habituation was a frightening thing. By now I could play my Fortelle without worrying on my mind. Maybe it was easier for her too, as her singing was really excellent as well. And I could play without faltering, despite not having practiced this piece that often. If such a thing as affinity existed, Torta and I would rank pretty high on the scale.
今日も疲れたね。
Yeah, I can at least sit, but isn't this tough to have to stand all day? That was an email. Sorry.
慣れてるから大丈夫よ。それよりもそれだけ長い時間一箇所に座ってる方が私としては辛そうな気もするんだけどね。
I see. Well, I've grown accustomed to that too.
だね。じゃあ片付けて出ようか。
Torta picked up the score sheets she had left on the chair earlier. Huh?
何?
Did you write down something?
当たり前じゃない。練習しながら楽譜に何か書き込まないわけないじゃない。
When did you...
クリスは一度も後ろを振り返らなかったからね。私のことなんか忘れてたんじゃない?
Of course not. I was just that focused on practicing.
嘘。知ってるよ。
She wasn't close to tears like before. But I couldn't get mad at a smile like that either. This is why girls were terrifying.
さあ、出よう。
Yeah. Somehow I felt like I was being pushed around all day, like Torta had me on a leash or something. But it gave me nostalgic feelings at the same time. And before I knew it, a grin was plastered on my face. Torta stopped in her tracks at a fork in one of the countless narrow alleyways that intersected one another here in the old town. This spot was just about halfway between Torta's house and my apartment. See you Monday. Walking home side by side was something we hadn't done until we started practicing together this December. So I had to hide some slight embarrassment I felt from it. We usually parted at the cafeteria, so it'd really been ages since we last strolled through the alleys like this.
ああ、それなんだけど、明日か日曜日って暇?
Don't tell me you want to practice.
何嫌そうな声してるのよ。違うよ。どっちでもいいからうちに遊びに来ない?
Did something happen?
おばあちゃんがたまには遊びに来なさいって言ってたから。
Ninna. Huh. Come to think of it, it's been a while since I last visited.
全然来てなかったよ。年に数回しか来ないんだもん。ちょっと心配してたよ。
I see. Last time was during summer, I believe.
そういうこと。
Ninna was Torta's grandmother. She'd been looking after me since I was a little boy. In the past, she used to live in Ari and Torta's family home. When we were about 10 years old, she suddenly told us she was going to move to Piova and left on her own. A dilettante to the bone, she strongly insisted on spending her remaining years here to satisfy her love for music. The twins' parents caved in quickly to her steadfastness. And now she was letting Torta live in a room on the second floor of her house. Thinking about it now, that might have just been her aim from the start.
それでどうする?
Well, in that case, sure.
よかった。おばあちゃんも喜ぶよ。
Of course. I won't bring my Fortelle. It's a bit too early to start practicing on free days.
聞かせてあげないの? 聞きたがってたな、クリスのフォルテール。
Are you trying to force me into more practice?
いや、そうは言ってないんだけどね。でもね、久しぶりにクリスのフォルテールが聴けるって。
Oops. But I never practiced this opera before. I've also never been this tired.
今までが練習しなさすぎだったの。土曜か日曜のどっちかは休ませてあげるから、好きな方を選びなさい。
Sunday it is then. I want a day of rest first. I've been practicing almost every day this week.
日頃からもっとやってればそんなに大したことじゃないのにね。
I'll get used to it.
そうだといいけど。じゃあ日曜日に私の家ね。
Okay, what time should I come?
晩ご飯くらいは食べていくでしょ。ならお昼くらいかな。
Do you want to practice that long?
もちろん。
I'll see you at about 3.
お昼ね。
What about 2?
お昼ね。
1:30?
もう。じゃあその時間でいいよ。お昼ご飯は？もうその時間だと食べちゃってると思うよ。
I can't intrude that much. I'll come after I've had lunch myself.
まあいっか。じゃああさってね。
Okay, see you Sunday. I'd really been pushed around by Torta all day today. When I realized I didn't feel all that discontented with it, I became slightly dissatisfied. Is today Sunday? Yeah, after spending lunchtime and leisure, I shouldered my Fortelle and went out. Disregarding the usual rain, I hurried towards Torta's house. The district with the house I was headed for was situated right next to the student apartments. There were many very old solitary houses in this area, and Ninna's house, which she bought second-hand when she moved here, was no exception. It was surprisingly close to my apartment, so it only took about 5 minutes by foot. I walked toward a relatively large building at the other end of the narrow alley. Torta was all smiles as she greeted me at the entrance. Thank you for having me. I set foot into a room that gave off a familiar scent. Every time I entered this household, I was flooded with the feeling of nostalgia. The sound of a creaking chair could be heard as Ninna spoke to me. Yes, it has been quite a while. Ninna faced me while rocking slowly in a bentwood chair. Okay. I did as I was told, and grasped the deeply wrinkled hand lying dormant on the armrest. It's only been half a year since then, Miss Fine. I don't grow that fast. She told me with a gentle voice and looked me in the eye. Or rather, she attempted to look me in the eye. Her narrow, barely opened irises were clouded, and she was almost unable to see anything nowadays. A very long time ago, I had called her Granny, just as Torta still did. Ninna talked about it as though that was only yesterday. Being treated like that wasn't unpleasant at all. But being treated like a child was starting to feel a little awkward now that I was at an age where I was expected to show courtesy to seniors. In any case, I shall be in your care for today, It might get a bit noisy, however.
いいんだよ。ここで演奏してくれるんだろ。
Let's see. I initially figured we could just practice in Torta's room, but now that didn't seem like such a good idea.
ここで練習するから。
そうかい。それはよかった。
Ninna slowly entrusted her body to the chair, making herself comfortable for the upcoming performance. It made me feel somewhat pressured to perform in a timely manner, so I began preparing my Fortelle straight away.
今日はなんか真面目だね。
I'm always serious. Is a bit of a stretch, I guess. Ninna's body rocked back and forth in unvoiced laughter. Feeling slightly remorseful for not visiting for such a long time, I pledged to myself to perform more earnestly than ever today. For starters, I lightly traced my finger along the keyboard and struck a note. The crystalline sound of my Fortelle reverberated through the room, prompting Ninna to turn slightly toward me. The house itself was large, and in this area there was no one who would find a musical performance to be a bother. I slightly adjusted my position to make sure Ninna would be able to hear it well, then turned to face Torta. Come to think of it, we hadn't practiced while facing each other like this yet. When our eyes connected, I couldn't help but feel embarrassed, more so than I normally would. Making sure Ninna didn't catch wind of this, I informed Torta I was ready in a slightly despondent fashion. Okay, I'm ready.
私も発声は済ませてあるから。
Torta had an upright piano of the same model she had back home in her room upstairs, so she probably already did it before noon using that. One could say she was well prepared, but her incentive was probably to increase the length of time she could practice with my lazy self. Exhaling deeply, I looked Torta straight in the eye. We didn't need any words to signal the start. I inhaled some air to synchronize with her respiration, then gently started playing my keyboard. Although this was a room made without acoustics in mind, Torta's voice resounded fairly well. The sounds diffusely reverberating off the walls were a little bit noisy, but I had the ability to phase them out. And unlike simply hearing her voice close to my ears during practice, it mingled with my Fortelle, and there was music. Ninna sat motionlessly, as though she had fallen asleep, simply letting her body be overtaken by the waves of sound. Before long, we had forgotten about everything, and attuned with the music. And then, the illusion that this would go on for all eternity abruptly came to an end. We didn't move for a while. As though destroying that moment of tranquility, Ninna spoke up to us.
クリス、トルタ。
Yes?
何？
うまくなったね。
That was all she had to say, but I was more than satisfied with that. Feeling strangely elated, I pondered what piece to play next. But then Torta shot me a glance as though telling me to stop.
おばあちゃん、私たちはこれから練習をしなくちゃいけないんだけど。
ああ、好きにおやり。私は食事の用意をしておくから。
どういうこと？
Why, we could play some other piece for her.
いいんだよ。練習の邪魔をするつもりはないから。いつも通りに練習して夜までいてくれたらそれでいいんだよ。
だってさ。
I see.
え？
I'm very sorry. I really should have come over more often.
来たい時に来てくれればそれが何より。
Leaving just that, Ninna walked toward the kitchen without minding us any longer. It almost seemed like she was telling us not to heed her any longer either. Her gait was casual to the point one would believe she was visually impaired. She was still healthy enough to take care of herself, and apparently cooking was Ninna's job in the house. I waited until Ninna, who was still quick on her feet, disappeared into the kitchen, then faced toward it once again. I'm gonna end it here, guys. I know it's short, but I'm gonna have to be keeping them short for a while because, sadly, what I thought was a week of midterms, I guess it was spaced out enough that the cycle starts again next week, with even more tests and assignments and everything awful. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.